All right, guys, in today's episode, I'm going to be shooting out a modded Mesa dual rec Rev G and a 100-watt Mesa Badlander. Let's get started. All right, so just the other day, I did a video with this beast right here. It's a modded dual rec Rev G, and it is freaking awesome. I was blown away at how good this amplifier sounded and how well it felt as well. I mean, it's very responsive, and if you get a chance, make sure you watch that video because I was seriously blown away with this amplifier. It's sick. So the mods that were done to it is they tightened up the low end, took all the fizz out of it, made it more aggressive and sculpted the gain, and upgraded and updated the tone stack, and the knobs just make more sense now. So there's a lot more usable space in the knobs, and they got rid of the noise floor that Mesa dual recs are known for. Now, as you know, Mesa released the Badlander a couple years ago as their kind of fix for the dual rectifier amplifiers. Like they heard our cries, right? They were like, all right, so you want something that's tighter and not so fizzy. Well, here you go. Now, I know the Badlander is not technically a dual rectifier, but it is their upgraded version of it anyways, you know? So it's loosely based on the dual rectifier, and again, it addresses a lot of the stuff that people complained about over the years about all the rectifiers. So now we have Mesa's version of a modded dual rec, I guess you could call it that, with the Badlander, and then we have an actual modded dual rectifier. So let's see how they compare. So what I'm going to do is start with the overdrive pedal off, and when I engage it, you'll see a picture of it here. I'll be using the Mud Killer for this video. So I'll be comparing these two amplifiers with these settings. In the modded dual rec, I'll be on the orange channel in modern mode with the silicone diodes engaged. And on the Badlander, I'll be in crush mode with the bold switch on. By the way, when I'm playing the Badlander, you'll see it on the screen here. When I'm playing the dual rectifier, you won't see the Badlander on the screen. So that's basically how it works. So let's get started with some riffs without the overdrive pedal engaged now. All right, so first thoughts between these two. The modded Mesa is definitely fuller, and the Badlander is a lot more sculpted. Now, that is the thing with the Badlander. It's a very, very sculpted amplifier. So, I mean, Mesa really went out of their way to sculpt the hell out of that thing. It was almost like, all right, you guys want a sculpted amp? Here's a freaking sculpted amp. Now deal with it, you know? I mean, they really went almost over the top with the sculpting, but it still sounds really good. And it takes a boost like a champ, which you will hear in a minute here. But I would say that the Badlander is definitely more sculpted than the dual rec here, but I will say that the dual rec is almost as tight. It's a teeny bit looser than the Badlander, and once again, this is modded, so that's why. But they left some low end in there, you know, to play with, and it definitely has a bigger sound, a fuller sound, and more low end. The top end's a little different. You know, I would say that the top end without the overdrive on the dual rec is still very good, but it's a little rounder than the Badlander, but not in a bad way. I mean, it's still got a really big full sound and a nice top end when you compare it to the Badlander. But I would say that the Badlander might have a slight edge as far as, I don't know, just a little more modern sounding, but man, it's like a photo finish between them as far as that goes, really, because what they did to the dual rec here as far as the top end goes, I mean, it really does sound like a modern amp. It's just slightly rounder than the Badlander. All right, so let's do a couple more riffs between them and just have some fun here. Yeah, the dual rec is definitely fuller, a lot fuller, and it's got a little more of that chewiness to it when you're playing it too. I think the feel might be a little better with it. I thought these were going to be a little further away from each other regarding like the voicing and stuff, because again, like I'm used to a dual rec sounding really fizzy, but I'm still trying to get it in my head that this is a modded dual rec, and man, they did such a great job on the mods on this amplifier. It's really keeping up with its modern counterpart big time, and I'm kind of digging the feel a little bit more on the dual rec, and I feel like it's got a little more gain, a little more saturation as well. Depending on your taste, I guess you could play either one of these amplifiers without the overdrive, but for me, it's a must for both of these amplifiers. I have to have an overdrive because I want that response, that tightness, and that really nice aggressive sound that you can get out of them with the overdrive pedal. But that being said, I think that the overdrive pedal is going to benefit the Badlander more than it would the dual rec. A couple more riffs and then we'll engage the pedal. Yeah, I'm definitely going to confirm what I was saying earlier. The dual rec is fuller and a little rounder and a bit softer as far as the feel goes. But I can tell that as soon as I engage the overdrive, it's going to really come to life and get tighter. And there's a lot more low end to work with. And I just feel like it's going to remain really big sounding and have that chewiness, when I engage the overdrive. Now with the Badlander, it is tighter without the overdrive. It's definitely tighter. Less saturation, a little less aggressive, but I know that amp. I've had it for a while, and it takes a pedal very well. All right, so let's go ahead and engage the boost pedal now. I said I was going to use the Mud Killer earlier. I'm not. I'm going to use the Mesa Grid Slammer. I'm using Mesa amps. Why not use their pedal? So, yeah, I'm going to be using the Mesa Grid Slammer right now. So basically how I have it set up is the level is maxed out, the gain is all the way down, and I cranked the tone knob all the way up. So let's see how these sound with that pedal engaged now. Yeah, I really think that the modded Mesa takes the pedal a little better. It's still full and very saturated, and the feel is better. I mean, I have to kind of give it to, the dual rec here. I think the Badlander's great. Don't get me wrong. Still sounds awesome, but my hands are enjoying the dual rec a little more. Let's do some more riffs and, first impressions. Let's do some more riffs and see what we got. Okay, on that particular, shootout, I started with the Badlander and ended with the dual rec, which is the opposite of what I did before that. So I wanted to do that to be fair, to see, you know how your hands and your ears get used to something, then you switch, and then they got to kind of adjust. and then you always prefer the first thing, you know. So in that one, maybe I preferred the Badlander a little bit more because that's what I started with. I'm just trying to be as fair as I can. That being said, both amplifiers sound awesome. And yeah, it was a great feel between them now that I swapped it, you know, and started with, you know, the Badlander first. I like the feel of both of them. I had to adjust to this time as opposed to adjusting to the Badlander like I did before. So, man, these are almost tied. This is like a photo finish at this point, you know, which is a testament, honestly, to both of these amplifiers, because I mean, you got whoever, you know, the guy that did the mods on this thing really knew what he was doing. He really did a great job on this and modernized it big time, and it still stays and it still remains huge. It's got that huge rectifier sound. It's big and fat, but it's not tubby anymore. It's very aggressive now. So yeah, I was right when I, you know, played this the other night and said it sounded more modern. I was right. It definitely sounds more modern. And I will say this too, I feel like the dual rec is a teeny bit more forward in the mix. Like I think it's just a hair bit more forward, where the Badlander is set back just a hair, you know, as far as the voicing goes. So I will say that. So like I said earlier, the top ends are a little different on both of these amplifiers, but let's play a couple more riffs on them. This time I'll start with the dual rec and see how I like that in this particular shootout. Okay, so I think in that particular, you know, little shootout, the Badlander was a slightly more articulate, where the dual rec was a little more forward and a little bigger sounding. So it just depends on what your preferences are. That being said, though, there's still a lot of great articulation in, you know, the OG here. You know, I mean, it's thicker. You know, so you can't expect it to be as articulate as the Badlander, because there's more, you know, it's just a bigger sound. So with that comes maybe a little, you know, less articulation, but, and I don't mean that as a derogatory thing, still very articulate here, but between the two, Badlander's a little bit more articulate. I think these guys are really close. I really do. I think that there's a lot of similarities between them, but they both have their own thing going on. And I think either one of these would be great. And they're different enough to where if you own both of them, you're lucky. I mean, you're super lucky, because they are different enough to have both of them and enjoy the benefits of both amplifiers. But they're good enough to actually, you know, stand toe-to-toe in the ring and duke it out. And I really think both of them are putting up a great fight here. I really do. So let's just do a quick mix with both of these, just so you can hear how they compare in a mix, and we'll end the video. Man, I got to tell you, if you have a dual rectifier and you're looking for something more modern and it's tempted you to just sell it and get the Badlander, I understand, but maybe you should get it modded instead, because I really think that this amplifier is keeping up with the Badlander extremely well, especially for an amplifier that, you know, again, has been made well before the Badlander, and the voicing and all the stuff about it was just completely different. And when they gave this thing a facelift, I mean, they totally modernized this thing, and I think it had a very respectable showing in this shootout. I really do. Both amplifiers did. I really love how the Badlander sounds and feels as well. So honestly, I think both of these amps are worth owning at the same time, because again, like I said earlier, they're different enough to where I think that, you know, they're worth having, you know, for the different flavors. But they're also similar enough where they complement each other very well, and they can share the same space, you know. Like, this isn't like, since it's modern, this isn't so like, oh, that's kind of old school sounding and outdated. No, this thing sounds amazing. It really does. So I think the mods on this, again, are legit as hell. They really sound good. And the guy that modded this did a fantastic job. He really did. I mean, this thing sounds freaking awesome. So I think both companies modded the amps properly. Like I said, Mesa did the upgraded or modded version of the dual rec themselves, and I think they did a great job. And you know, the guy that did the mods here also did a great job. And I'll post a link to his website in the description, so if you want to get mods done on your dual rec, then you can do that too. Well, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you did, please give it a like. I'd really appreciate it. Share it in the Facebook groups and stuff like that. It really does help the channel a lot. And leave your comments below on your thoughts about this episode. Well, again, thanks to all my subscribers and Patreon supporters. I really appreciate you guys. And if you haven't subscribed, please do, and click the bell so that you can be notified every time I either go live or come out with a new episode, because I got a lot more stuff coming up for you guys, and I'll see you on the next one.